Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll hear inspirational stories of heart-centered leaders who have awakened to their higher purpose and taken that leap of faith to follow their heart and make an impact in the world. Get ready to be enlightened, empowered, and transformed with your host, Jennifer Spohr.
I am overjoyed and just really excited to welcome as a guest to our show today, Russ Johns. Russ is passionate about encouraging others and supporting the people around him. He has over 30 years of experience creating systems, connections, and relationships. He is a lifelong learner and studies methods and strategies to create connections and to help others. He's interested in giving back also to the community with relationship and cause-based marketing, virtual marketing management, creating systems for connecting people, and he's passionate about connecting and developing relationships. Russ has had many titles, including musician, farmer, artist, firefighter EMT, creator, caregiver, and father, brother, and son. Please welcome to the show, Russ Johns. Hi, Russ. You are a man of many talents, I have to say.
I'm so excited to be here, Jennifer, and I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to have a conversation that's valuable to your audience and the people listening in. So it's all about giving back.
Thank you so much. I'm just, as I said, before we, when we first connected today, I'm just really honored to have you with us. And you are just one of the kindest people I know, and I just appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. And I feel very much the same way. And it's just, this is the beauty of where we are today and the excitement that I always feel when we're talking about a subject like we're in the same room and we're miles apart. And the opportunity that we have as individuals in a community to actually have a discussion around these things. Kindness is cool, smiles are free, you know what I say. And sharing that with people around the world. I'm just excited about that. And learning about what other people are doing is just amazing to me that this is possible at this point in time.
I feel the same, absolutely. And it's one of the many blessings of technology that we're able to connect in this way and to be able to share our message with so many people. It just is really, truly a blessing. And with that being said, I know that our listeners are interested in learning more about you. What inspired you to do the work that you're doing today? How did you get to where you are now from where you were in terms of, doing that higher work?
I have to tell you that we've had our journey. I've been in and out of corporate offices. I've been, up and down throughout life. And the thing that I've really developed as a philosophy is that when I think about what I can give versus what I can get, my life kind of turned around and it really started to blossom in my relationships, my ability to see different opportunities. Things started showing up in my life that I had never seen before. And even though I was productive and doing a lot of different things and active, and the development years, I call them, are kind of hectic. You're building a family, you're growing, and work is busy, and all of that movement, all of that energy was not as fulfilling as what I'm doing now. And I think the one trigger that influences what I do is I want to feel joy in what I'm doing. And I want to feel as if what I'm doing matters to someone. And I think that's really where I'm ending it up now. And I mean, I've been in corporate America. I've been out of corporate America. I lost everything twice, actually. And, climbing the ladder. And so a few years ago when my oldest son committed suicide, I decided that I wanted to change the way I fill my days and change the way I present myself to the world and, grow and continue in kindness. It's like, what can I contribute back to society? What can I contribute back to the people around me, the community, and everything that I'm doing?
I'm sorry to hear about your son.
I thank you. Appreciate that. And talking about tragedy and the kind of the back and forth with tragedy. I've actually lost two sisters growing up, to circumstances, and one from a horseback riding accident, and the other one was a sudden death. Their heart just stopped. And so growing up and having a family that I'm very close to, and losing somebody that you're close to, or someone that you're really, you're related to, is it changes your perspective. And for myself, it allowed me to understand how short life can be, and what we can do to make changes in our behavior, and understand that I am so blessed today. I wake up with gratitude. I wake up and I find out what I can do, something. I create something positive every day. I go to bed and I think I think I'm so thankful that I'm able to do something productive every day. And I'm here. I'm in Arizona, and I'm caring for mom and dad, and they don't drive, they don't get to appointments. I pick up their prescriptions. I help prepare food and go grocery shopping and everything else. And it's really, I'm contributing back to all of the things and the benefits that have been fallen on my life in over the years. And when you bring it all into perspective, it's like at the end of the day, it's love, family, friends, and what I can contribute. And that all brings it together for me. And that's where I've developed my ideas and my philosophy today.
I can identify with some of what you're saying about losing those that are close to us. I have experienced a suicide in my own family. My stepdad and my mom several years ago died from cancer, which was actually one of the catalysts for me making changes. And it's interesting because it seems like for so many of us, it unfortunately, sometimes it takes a major event to kind of shake us awake, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a great way I love the way you phrase that, is shake us awake, right?
Yes, because so many of us just kind of go through life existing and not really living, or being conditioned to believe that we have to live this cookie cutter version of our life, and even if it's living in a way that doesn't bring us the joy and the happiness that you spoke of a little bit earlier in our conversation. But that's really what it is all about, is being able to live with joy, being able to do what lights us up inside. And that's one of the reasons why I know that I'm out here sharing this message, right? It's in hopes that those that are listening to us today, if they're feeling a call to make a change in their life, that they will hopefully answer that call and not wait until an event takes place to prompt them to take action.
Well, if there's one thing I can offer people over and over again is, and I want to approach this idea a couple of different ways. And I know you can relate because we've had this conversation, is that we grow up in this world where we're told that life is a certain way, and we observe people doing certain things. You go to school, you graduate, you get a job, you buy a house, you have a family, you grow your career, you grow your career some more. And a lot of people realize that there are times where we climb the corporate ladder and we find out that we're leaning against the wrong building. And once you get to the place where you thought you wanted to be, you discover that it's not anything like you had imagined. And so I was at a situation where I loved my job. I loved I imagined I was loving what I did. And then I got to the point, and through a merger and acquisition, that was all taken away. And what was really taking place after years of looking back on it is I was actually miserable in my life, not necessarily my job, but my life. And when that all blew up and went away, I had to recreate my life, and I had to recreate who I was. And the transition that took place it was amazing and scary, and also painful at times. Being divorced and not having a job, and you know all this turmoil in your world, and then, having to rediscover who you are and really understand, okay, what do I want? How do I want to be? How do I want to show up in my world? And all of these things craft who you are. Your experience is all part of who you become over time. And at the end of the story, or the end of some chapters, as I call it, the chapter of the book of life, is that some chapters are like, I need to rewrite this because I traveled down this path and I got to this point and it wasn't exactly what I had imagined. So the beauty of it is, and the upside of all of this, and where I'm headed, is you have an opportunity to change your story. You have an opportunity to develop a new story and say, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go do something else. And so you use the experience that you've been through, you develop your new story, and you discover, okay, well, this is who I can help. This is how I help them. And I'm going to go on and do this thing. So you're not stuck where you are. You think you're stuck. However, you're never stuck. That's the story you're telling yourself. And when you believe or imagine a different story is when the power begins.
Absolutely. We are not in control of all circumstances in our life, but we have complete control over our thoughts, our emotions, and how we choose to act.
Well, and I think we have to be responsible for our own actions. And some of the decisions I've made haven't been the best decisions in my life. I can't say that I would actually change any of the things that I've done, because I don't think regret is a productive emotion. Just like I don't believe in hate.
But I agree with you because I've had people ask me that question before, oh, if you could go back and change anything, what would it be? And the answer is I honestly wouldn't change a thing because and this is another question I wanted to actually ask you is, because I believe that every experience in our lives shapes who we become. It's those challenges and the triumphs, but without experiencing some level of contrast, how can we really be clear on what it is that we do want or value what it is that we want? So what experience in your life do you feel has been most significant in shaping who you are today?
Oh, that's a great question. And I love that you asked that question because I have to honestly say that there's a group of specific events that took place that developed who I am today. And one, a lot of people don't necessarily know this about me, is that I grew up as a musician. And then in 1987, I fell 3 stories, shattered my arm, and I was married at the time. I shattered my arm and, nearly lost my life and was in reconstruction surgery and rehab for 2 years. And, kind of changed my direction in music. However, the company that I was working for, which was an advertising business, hired me back and I became the safety director, which then allowed me to get into technology, which then allowed me to get into climb the corporate ladder, so to speak. And through those events, I grew out of that path. And then when that was sold, the company was sold to another organization and my job was eliminated. And then I got divorced at the same time. So 15 years of marriage and 18 years of marriage and 15 years of work experience evaporated about in the same week. So that experience, that chapter in the book of life, really the whole transition, the arc of the story, so to speak, is what really molded some of my behavior and some of the things that I wanted to do and accomplish in life. And then, of course, my son's suicide 2 years ago. It's really, and then, dad has dementia. He's 91 and has dementia, and being here with the family and contributing to the family, all of these elements. So there's not like a single pivotal instance that I can point to and say, this changed my life. It's more as if these big events that some were very tragic, and I had to evolve and encourage others around me to evolve and change who and where I was and what I was doing. And I just feel like it's an evolution rather than a single event. And I hope that answered your question and provides somebody with an idea that it may not be a special event. It may be a series of events.
Yes, it absolutely answered the question. And that's actually a really excellent point that you bring up about it not being one single event, because for a lot of people, there can be a single event, but for others, such as yourself, and I've spoken with some other people too, that it isn't just one, it's a culmination of events. But you, I have to say, you are such a wonderful example, Russ, of someone who has taken experiences in life where you could have gone a very different direction, but you've chosen to turn those experiences in a way to give back to others. And so I just really want to thank you for that.
Well, and thank you for saying that. I truly appreciate that. And people that know me, I mean, they understand that I am who I am, and I'm not really, I am not to sound arrogant or anything like that, but what you're hearing is who I am. And it's like, I'm positive. I like to see the opportunity in every challenge. And when I have challenges, which we all do in life, I mean, I'm not exclusive to challenges. It's like car breaks down, or your, your flight is delayed, or, you know, you miss the ferry, or something happens in life. It's like, think of it, when you look at it as an opportunity to learn something, it changes your perspective in life. And it's like, okay, if somebody turns in front of you in traffic or doesn't let you into traffic, it's like people get so upset about that. And I just outraged, and we've heard of road rage and things like this. And I look at it a little differently, as like, I mean, I used to travel a lot and I'd miss a flight. And it's like, okay, I get to people watch in the airport. It's like, I'm just late. I'm just early for the next one. It's like, there's another flight. And sometimes it would disrupt life and it would disrupt things. And it has caused challenges over time. However, if you look at it from a different perspective, just a small, like 2 degrees away from what you're frustrated by, and imagine what you can learn from it, and saying, why am I feeling this? Why would this be upsetting? What's the worst thing that can happen? And then what's the worst thing that can happen from that? And then what's the worst thing that can happen from that? And if you go down that list, you're thinking, it's not a big deal. It's not a big
Well,
deal.
and often what we think is, the worst that can happen, it doesn't happen.
No.
I mean, perspective, as you said, it's perception is everything. And we get to choose that. We're empowered to choose that. We aren't victims, and we aren't our emotions.
Yeah, I love that you said that. We're not victims. And a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, there are many people that enjoy being a victim because they don't have to take responsibility for their life. And I'm not immune to that. I've noticed that in my life in the past. And there's still things that I have to work through and improve as an individual. And the challenge with social media is we have a tendency to see all of the things that are the better side, right? And so a lot of people, they get caught up in this episode of comparing who they are against someone else's life. And that's the worst thing that we can do, because there's someone in front of you and there's someone in back of you, and that's always going to be the case. So comparing yourself to anyone else when you're already the perfect person for yourself is a waste of time, in my opinion.
Well, each one of us is unique. Not
Yeah.
one of us is the same. So comparison is insane.
Comparison is insane. It's like, I like
it's like
that.
banging your head against the wall and somehow expecting a result. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Some of the best advice I've ever received was to stay in my own lane.
Yeah. Well, and that brings up a good point, Jennifer, because I'm thinking to myself, and I think about this a lot, and I'm a thinker on occasion. I try not to overthink. However, I was thinking about this the other day, and I'd like to kind of get your thoughts on this, is that as you're developing and as you're thinking through your thoughts and how you imagine life should be, how do you go about becoming who you need to be or who you are? And it's like creating. It's like an artist or a musician. And I think, well, you have to create something in order to discover whether you like it or not. And you have to do it enough to get efficient at it to understand if that's something you still love to do. So it's a constant cycle of improving, understanding, and the feedback to understand, okay, who am I? What am I contributing to the world? And how do I show up for myself and for others? Because a lot of times people, they undervalue their skills that others perceive of them.
So there's a lot of great points that you made here. One is, yes, I believe we are eternal students. That's what we're here to do, is to learn. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about without contrast,
Yeah.
it's impossible for us to truly know the value of what we want, to truly be clear on what we want. So failure is an illusion, right? It's
Right.
everything that we are learning and creating. And every time something we try doesn't work out the way that we think it should work out, it's not a failure, it's a learning, and it's bringing us another step closer to mastery.
Right. Right. Or the decision to go a different direction.
Exactly. Yes. Sometimes it does bring us clarity.
Yeah.
In terms of the need to move in a different direction. Absolutely. I think more of us need to embrace that, right? But so many of us are conditioned, we're taught to believe that if it isn't perfect, then it's a failure. If it doesn't work out the way that we think it should work out, then it's a failure. And it's all insane because I said
It is
comparison's insane. This is insane too, because by default, we all have limiting beliefs because we're all a product of our environment. So to try to measure your own beliefs about what's perfect and not perfect against how you're performing, it's crazy.
well, it is crazy. And the reason we do that is because we can only measure against our past and not against our future.
Yes, and that's great that you bring that up because we cannot change our past. So if you like the way things have gone in the past, then perfect. Keep doing your thing, but
Yeah.
but our future exists in potential, and that potential is formed from where we choose to focus in the now. So rather than looking at the past, it's like understand what you can learn from the past,
Mhm.
but beyond that, focus on what you want to create going forward today.
And be responsible for the moment, because right now is the time that will feed your future and place the direction you're taking and move it forward. It's like, okay, nobody wakes up to be average. Nobody says, hey, I just want to be average today, or I want to be below average, or I would like to.
But what is average, right? It's like
Yeah.
focus on living in joy. Focus on
Exactly.
doing what brings you joy, and that's where you need to be.
Yeah. And that's where I've arrived at, Jennifer, as a result of the pain and tragedy and the trajectory that I've lived and all of the experience that I mean, I I can't I mean, I've had some amazing experiences in my life. I've traveled, I've, you know, I've seen things, I've done things, I've been close to missing out on life, and I've been in deep depression and, had amazing experiences. And all of these are contributing factors to who I am today. And when people don't live fully, they can't fully live.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a great segue to another question I wanted to ask you, which is what is the number one piece of advice, actionable advice, that you would have for someone who's out there listening right now, who is feeling called to do more, but maybe they haven't taken that leap of faith? What would you tell them that they could do now in order to move forward?
I would tell people that the best thing you can do is take the smallest step possible and do it now. And it doesn't have to be a big step. It doesn't have to be a monumental step. It doesn't have to be anything that anyone has to notice. What it has to do is when you decide you want to move forward with something, the universe seems to open up and remove a lot of obstacles. So the first thing you need to do is decide, I'm going to move this direction. I'm going to take steps every day. And in 365 days, you're going to look back and say, I can't believe this has happened.
And it is the little steps. That's such fantastic advice. That's really what it is. So many people think about change and they get overwhelmed and then end up doing nothing. But it isn't 0 to 60. Nothing really happens like that.
No.
And there is no step that is too small, right? Because there is no textbook to life. There is only our life and the way that we want to live it.
And when you take the moment and break it down, it's like a project. Nobody goes out and says, hauls a bunch of 2x4s out of the hardware store and a hammer and nails and say, hey, I'm going to build a house. You kind of work backwards. You say, okay, I have this vision and I'm going to create a couple of steps along the way in order to achieve this vision. And it's the same thing with anything. If you break it down in small quantities and you minimize the amount of overwhelm in anything that you're doing, and you can step in the right direction, make that decision, because that's the first minimal viable product you can produce is decide that you're going to try this.
Absolutely. It starts with setting an intention.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
Intention.
Sorry. Thank you for that fantastic advice. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's so true. It's about the little steps and it's about being intentional, commitment and consistency are key. Russ, how can someone find you? Because I'm sure there are people out there listening who would love to learn more about you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the easiest way to spend time with me and actually have a conversation is you go to bookruss.com and it'll take you to my page that allows you to book a call with me. It goes to russjohns.com and you can always find me on social media, search Russ Johns and you can find me anywhere. And I'm on LinkedIn. I'm an avid LinkedIn user, so I'm on there as well. So if you want to message me, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best way right now. I still have some space there that you can connect with me. So I'm happy to connect with you if you send me a connection request.
Russ, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It has really been a joy to be able to spend this time with you.
The pleasure is all mine, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Awake and on Purpose podcast. Please visit us and subscribe to the podcast at awakeandonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can connect with your higher purpose and take that leap of faith to make your impact in the world, visit us at jenniferspor.com. And while you're there, be sure to join our email list for exclusive offers and a weekly dose of inspiration.